permission. You're welcome.
I'm very enthusiastic.
Okay, how about today? How about dinner?
Oh, you want to record?
All the shoes. What's that? Stairs. She goes upstairs like this. Just like this. Just right up.
I'd like to have a warm welcome for Mary and Tim. Tonight is a woman who is the co-convener of the Mayor's Council on Women. She's also a teacher at Burlington College, and she's also an active supporter and fighter against militarism and more support for families and women. I'd like to introduce Joy Livingston. Can you hear me? Good. I'd just like to Mayor Sanders and his re-election campaign. When Bernie was elected, I really detected a new feeling in Burlington. It was an exciting time to be around. And I've seen that that promise has been fulfilled in many ways. As a woman, I was really excited to see a progressive in office. It seemed to me that it was a good time to start seeing women's issues addressed in the city. And so I was part of the founding of the Mayor's Council on Women. And over the past 4 years, we've done a lot of exciting things. We've provided free self-defense training for women. We've done conferences on law, on women's work. We have had a conference and will continue to have conferences around militarism and connecting a feminist analysis of militarism with the Mother's Day celebration. There's a lot of work left to be done. Certainly, women are still suffering from violence on the streets and in our homes. We're still struggling for health care. struggling against violence against health care for women in the form of threats on abortion centers. And we're still struggling for economic justice. I think that Bernie's re-election will give us an opportunity to continue in the work of the Mayor's Council on Women, continue to work towards improved health care for women in Burlington, improved safety on our streets and in our homes, and improved economic justice for women in Burlington. Thank you.
The next speaker this evening is Callie Shannon. And Callie Shannon is an active member of the Burlington Housing Authority, and she's also the president of Vermont Tenants Incorporated. And she's a strong fighter for many of the causes that all of you here tonight participate in and believe in. So I'd like a warm welcome for Callie.
I live in public housing. It's a term that no longer has the negative connotations it used to have, partly, I think, because Mayor Sanders has appointed 5 commissioners to the Burlington Housing Authority who share his basic philosophy that tenants are people too. Because of the Sanders administration, Burlington has a funded tenant resource center that provides assistance in the form of legal advice, booklets, and workshops, as well as in tenant organizing. Perhaps all of these ideas and proposals might have taken shape anyway during another administration, but they didn't. I haven't heard another mayoral candidate address tenant issues during this campaign, something Mayor Sanders has done right along. I think that because about 2/3 of Burlington's population is comprised of renters, by the time this election is over, the other candidates will discover to their chagrin what Mayor Sanders has known for years, that tenants are bright people and they're people who vote.
I'd like to introduce someone who's familiar to many of you. He's one of our aldermen. He's from Ward 3. He's a fighter for the Old North End, Gary DeCarlos.
Start off tonight by saying that one thing you can count on as a progressive is that we think a lot and we're very intelligent. Then I realize we're all here tonight and it's below zero out there, so I'll save that one for another night. Actually, some of the things I wanted to say is that perhaps tonight we have a very historical situation. One is that few places in the country you can say that progressives are elected officials and progressives are soon to be in control of the Board of Aldermen. That's historic. For a number of years now, and I think that's a historical event in Burlington. To be a progressive in Burlington is not like saying I'm Democrat because my father was or because my family was. To be a progressive means that you think about what is important to you in life, what is important to you in an urban environment. Everyone probably here tonight is a progressive for a different reason. And I think that in itself is why we grow, is why we continue to be creators and initiators, and we continue to be innovative. And I think that's probably the cornerstone of being a progressive in Burlington today. For me personally, and I know for Bernie Sanders, who happens to be a very good friend of mine, that to be progressive means that you're fighting for social and economic justice. It's not good enough for us, and it hasn't been good enough for us, to say that parts of the city don't receive services while other parts of the city receive favors. It hasn't been good enough to see corporations and utilities have breaks from the city while other little people have to pay large sums of money for their basic human needs. It certainly hasn't been good enough for us to see landlords treat tenants as second-class citizens and to discriminate against them. And some of those things we've been fighting for up to today, many of those things are fights for tomorrow. And certainly the leader of that fight for the last 4 years and for a number of years has been Bernie Sanders. There's no one that I know who has a sense of commitment and loyalty and vigor as Mayor Sanders. And I support him, and I know all you people do too. Thank you.
Professor of religion at UVM. I think I categorize him as sort of the spiritual guardian of this administration. These days, during the election, many people are taking credit for being the person who convinced Bernie Sanders to run back in 1981. Well, I'd like to introduce to you the man who did, Richard Sugarman.
Not sorry that I did. You're so lucky to be mayor. Okay. Burlington is today a more just city, a more courageous city, a more inspiring city than it was 4 years ago. And we have someone here to thank for those changes. Bernard Sanders. Today we are concerned not just with the people who own Church Street, but with the human beings who walk the streets of downtown without a place to sleep in the middle of a Vermont winter. If you don't remember what that's like, take a look. Today we have a different and more just agenda. We are focused in our attention not just on the people who are perched on the top of the hill, but with those who live at the foot of the hill as well. Under the leadership of Bernard Sanders, the dignity of workers, the elderly, the disadvantaged are not only being listened to at City Hall, the disenfranchised majority is the very voice of City Hall itself. There was a very revealing exchange reported in our local excuse for a newspaper. This one went largely unnoticed. Several years ago, during a series of intense labor negotiations between management and labor, one ordinance earn their daily bread by the sweat of their brow. For we are the very same people, workers, taxpayers, peoples with families, neighborhoods that need to be restored and cannot simply be erased by parking lots and superhighways. Ask the people in Lakeside, in the South End, or on Archibald Street in the North End, who has protected their rights and sustained them through difficult times. That person is in this room. His name is Bernard Sanders. Deal with enthusiasm in record-breaking numbers for a new direction, a renewed sense of promise. Burlington has become a beacon of hope in a dark winter of national public policy. The moral victory has already been won. No one can take that away from you. He was elected twice democratically. democracy. I say to you this night, encourage this courageous man who has given us the courage to persevere. Encourage him with your good words, your inspiring contributions and dedication in every way you know how, in every way you can. And let America continue to know that in one small city, true democracy still lives.
For 4 years, and we will continue to do so, I'd like to introduce Mayor Bernard Sanders.
Thank you very much. Tonight, I would like to begin my remarks by doing something that I very rarely have an opportunity to do, and that is to say, from the very bottom of my heart, that I am as grateful as I possibly can be for the support which you have given me and my administration during the last 4 years. I am grateful for your knocking on doors and distributing literature in freezing cold weather, for your running for office yourselves and knocking on the doors there, and for manning the telephones, for your volunteer efforts in planting trees around the city so that our city is becoming alive with green, for your coaching little kids of the Old North End in baseball so that they're now proud to wear uniforms that they never had before, for your providing self-defense classes for women, which were extremely successful and popular, for your providing cultural activities for our senior citizens, for shoveling the snow off the walks of our handicapped people, and for, most important, fighting in a wide variety of ways, each in our own different way, for peace in this world and for economic justice for all people. Tonight, I also want to do something that I rarely have the opportunity to do because we just don't get together so often. And I want to give a special thanks to a group of people who often don't get the credit that they deserve. And these are our aldermen who week after week come to this room and week after week go through vicious, ugly meetings for all of $10 a week. And they fight week after week, year after year, the good fight and the right fight for the people of Burlington. And tonight, I also want to thank the members of my administration who day after day, hour after hour, put in those weeks of 50, 60, and sometimes 70 hours to protect the interests of the people. about 4 years ago they fired Linda, but she's back. Sometimes, in the midst of all the squabbling and political fights which go on in this city, some of which, in fact, are extremely bitter and vulgar and knock something out of you, that in the midst of the enormous opposition that we deal with every day, and in fact, in the midst of our own concentration on this or that particular issue that we are dealing with, sometimes we lose sight of one very important fact. In the United States today, there are thousands and thousands of cities and towns. To the best of my knowledge, there is only one city in this nation where independent-minded people who are concerned about peace and social justice, about the economic rights of workers and the poor, there is one city in America where people have taken on the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, big business, the local newspaper, and the whole damn establishment, and we beat them. Kids' textbook 10 years from now, there will be a footnote when they talk about the two-party system, and they're going to have an asterisk and say, except for Burlington, Vermont. We have made history, and I have a very strong feeling that in the years to come, we are going to continue to make history as the most progressive city in America. And where I believe perhaps we should be going in the years to come. And I also want to discuss perhaps very briefly why the opposition to us is as bitter and in some cases as irrational as it is. The beliefs that we hold, the dreams and visions that motivate us, those of us in this room and many more not in this room, are not new. They are not ideas that we have discovered. If civilization means anything, it means that the values that we in this room tonight share and hold in common bond are values that have been passed on from generation to generation for thousands of years and exist in one form or another in all nations and in all cultures and have been articulated 1,000,000 times by men and women in every corner of this earth. These are the values that cry out for human love and compassion, for brotherhood and sisterhood, and for a world in which every man and every woman is capable of feeling the pain and joy of his brother and his sister, and the anguish of starving children in Africa, thousands of miles from Burlington. And what are some of these values? These simple beliefs, because in fact the deepest truths in life are not complicated. They are very simple. What are these values that we share together and with people throughout the entire world? First and foremost, I believe, is the desire for world peace and an end to the horror and insanity of war. What a strange and remarkable world we live in. Technology that allows for space travel, for organ transplants, for computers that talk and sing and dance. And all the while, the nations of this earth spend close to $1 trillion a year on the military for weapons of destruction and death. And the children in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America die of starvation, and the elderly people of Burlington, Vermont, live in mortal fear that the President of the United States will cut their Medicare or their Medicaid or those meager Social Security cost of living checks that they get. Recently, as some of you may have read, the University of Vermont hockey team played host to a hockey team from the Soviet Union. And the American hockey players were heard to say that the young men from the Soviet Union were pretty much like them, except they were a little better in hockey. And I suspect that the UVM fellows were right. And also that the mothers in the Soviet Union are like mothers in Burlington, Vermont. And the babies in the Soviet Union are like some of the babies in this room. And the men and women who work in the factories of the Soviet Union are like our factory workers here in the United States. And yet, we are destroying the economy of the United States, and the Soviet Union is destroying their economy by spending hundreds of billions of dollars so that we can wipe each other's nation off the face of the earth. Total and absolute insanity that has to be dealt with if we are to survive. Democrats and Republicans have criticized the Progressive Coalition for speaking out on the issues of war and peace and on international issues in general. Well, so long as the President and the Congress of the United States are prepared to spend close to $300 billion a year on the military, while they contemplate cuts in Medicaid, medical care, child nutrition programs, housing, education, federal revenue sharing, and community development block grants for cities. So long as they adopt that attitude, I and the other members of the Progressive Coalition and you will speak out loudly and clearly to stop these absurd priorities. The world today, as you know, tragically, hovers on the edge of nuclear annihilation. Our critics here in Burlington and in our local newspaper believe that we should leave the issue of war and peace to the geniuses in Washington and the State Department and the CIA who have served us so well over the years. But I think we understand something now. What we understand is that our friends in Washington and all of our friends here in Burlington who tell us these are not local issues, don't get involved. I think that our friends in Washington understand something. And what they understand is that they are scared to death to hear from the people back home. They are scared to death to hear from the people in the cities and towns throughout America who are saying, stop the war effort, stop the military machine. We want decent education for our kids and decent pay for our teachers. We want affordable health care, affordable housing, affordable utility rates, and we don't want MX missiles and Star Wars military machines up there. And just because the people in Washington don't want to hear from the people back home, we're going to let them know we're here, and we're going to continue to raise our voice until they stop. And then there's another value, a vision, that I believe all of the people in this room and thousands not in this room in the city of Burlington share and hold dearly. And this is a vision and a feeling that has been held for thousands of years again throughout the world by all kinds of people and in all kinds of different ways. And that feeling and that belief is simply economic and social justice for all people. A very, very simple concept. It is a belief that says there is something very wrong and very immoral when a tiny handful of very wealthy people who sit at the heads of the giant banks and corporations are able to control the economic destiny of this nation and much of the world. Will they be making their investments in Vermont and create jobs here? Or will they move their factories to Haiti or El Salvador, where they can pay starving workers $3 a day to do slave labor? Will they develop a new ski resort in the southern part of Vermont, or will they go to Colorado? And which state will give them cheaper labor and a bigger tax break? Tune in tomorrow. And when we talk about economic justice, we shouldn't just concentrate on the corporations and the wealthy. We should focus for a moment on the lives of ordinary people. The people who day after day, year after year, go to work. They keep the factories going, and the shops going, and the universities going, and the quote-unquote non-profit institutions going. And after 20 years of labor, they find themselves continuing to have difficulty to pay the mortgage, or the utility bills, or get their car inspected so they can stay on the road, or pay the highly inflated health insurance costs that we have to deal with. Year after year they work, and they end up with very little. And then they have the joy of watching the President of the United States and the United States Congress cut away at programs that might, just might, provide the smallest degree of dignity in their retirement. Economic justice does not exist in this country. It does not exist in this world. And the fight someday for our kids, or for our kids' kids, to bring economic justice to this world must remain foremost in our struggles. Here in Burlington, Vermont, we are one small city in one small state in the northeastern part of the United States. What should we, one small city, attempt to do? What can we do as a city government? Well, some of the answers, I think, are quite obvious. For a start, as part of our policy of running city government, we are obliged to treat the taxpayers' money as it were our own. We are obliged to run city government as efficiently, productively, and cost-effectively as we possibly can. Wasting government benefits nobody, and I think we're doing a good job with the trust of the people's money. Secondly, we must make certain that the infrastructure of our city is maintained in as good a condition as we can afford, which is why we are very proud that in the last year and a half we have begun a street and sidewalk repaving program, so that now your cars will not totally disappear in some pothole, and that we hope within 6 or 7 years that the streets and sidewalks will be in presentable condition. And also, why we are proud that this year we are beginning the effort to improve our sewer system and our wastewater plants, and will do away with the indignity in the city of people in Burlington having human waste in their basements. We will end that once and for all. Has brought about during the last year and a half. CEDO has brought many, many millions of federal dollars into the city, and as a result of their work, hundreds upon hundreds of new jobs have been created. Today, for a variety of reasons, including the efforts of city government, unemployment in Burlington, Vermont is the second lowest in the United States of America. And while we must absolutely continue our efforts to fight for more jobs, and most importantly, higher paying jobs, for our workers, especially for women, and while we must concentrate on bringing in more jobs for the young people as well, we believe that we are off to a good start. And we passed the proposal of 5 years ago of the high-rise condominiums that we could all afford for a mere $250,000 apiece. Today, in my view, we are looking at one of the most exciting waterfront development projects in America, a project which consists, if successfully implemented, ample park space, a pedestrian walkway, free museums for our kids and for ourselves, an arts and crafts center, community boating where you can go downtown and for a few bucks rent a paddle boat or a canoe. We are doing an excellent job in rehabilitating dozens and dozens of old units and making them livable for low and moderate income families. And our public health and safety department is vigorously continuing the effort of making sure that every unit of housing in the city of Burlington is up to code. A city, however, and I think we must understand this deeply, is not just bricks and mortar and streets and sewers, as important as those things are. A city is human beings, it is community, it is a spirit in the air, it is extended family, it is compassion. After all is said and done, all of us will remember for all of our lives that we lived in Burlington, Vermont in the 1980s. And we relate to each other, and the quality of our lives are affected by who we are and our relationship to each other. And to the degree that we can make this a great and beautiful city, we make our own lives greater and more beautiful. And that's the goal that we have got to have. During the last 4 years, I honestly believe that this city has done more than any city government in Vermont history to protect the needs and interests of low-income and working people. Today, in Burlington, we have a beautiful new daycare center. And that daycare center took 2 years of bitter political struggle to bring about, and today it's a beauty and we're proud of it. Today we have an emergency shelter, so that on a night like tonight, people at least have a place to sleep and a place in which to keep warm. Today in Burlington, Vermont, we have a shelter for battered women, which is doing an excellent job in dealing with that difficult problem. Today in Burlington, we have fine after-school programs for our children, an excellent employment program for unemployed youth, and a wonderful youth newspaper, which combines the efforts of 6 different schools, and the kids produce the newspaper themselves. Today in Burlington, Vermont, the arts and cultural activities are alive and well for people of all economic levels, not just the well-to-do who can afford the 20 bucks for a nice concert or a play. Next summer, if you can believe it, we will be opening our 5th annual Battery Park free summer concert series, and we will continue our jazz festivals, country music festivals, winter festivals, senior citizen art programs, neighborhood festivals, and our sponsorship for dozens and dozens of a variety of cultural activities. Also, it is my belief that the Vermont Reds will once again win the Eastern League Championship. And I hope we'll all get together in the baseball game this summer. During the last several years, in a manner unprecedented in modern Vermont, the city of Burlington has stood up and fought the special interests and the big money, battle after battle. Sometimes we lose. Sometimes we win. But they know we are here. And they know that they don't run the city anymore. we have opposed the outrageous 48% increase in rates sought by our friendly New England Telephone Company. We have opposed Cox Cable Television's request for a mere 90% increase in rates and a 15-year franchise in the city without competition. And I always love that particular one. The great exponents of the free enterprise system and capitalism who believe that they have a right for monopoly without competition. We oppose the rights of private utilities to dig up our streets and sidewalks with impunity and to leave the bill for the taxpayers. And we are very delighted that our friends in Winooski have joined us and that they are now going to put the excavation fee on their election day and fight for that. We're delighted. We have opposed Blue Cross, Blue Shield's increase in health insurance rates, which are especially disastrous for the elderly. We oppose the local insurance company's monopoly in the city, which provided at an inflated cost insurance for the city. And we are very proud that a consultant hired by the city was able to work with our light department to develop a new rate structure which we believe will offer substantial savings to the residential consumers of the city. The rest of my page is blank, so I'm going to have to wing it from here in conclusion. But I think I just want to say this. Yesterday was Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. And we declared the day, Martin Luther King Day, in Burlington. You didn't see it because I don't think it got into the paper, but we did. And we wrote a statement about it. And I think it's fitting maybe to summarize what we wrote to conclude maybe where we are in Burlington today and where we're going to go. King was clearly a very great man. And as a result of his work and the work of thousands of other people in the civil rights movement, clearly enormous changes took place in this country. Some of us who are older than others can remember, unbelievable as it may seem to the younger people, that not so long ago in this quote-unquote free country, black people could not sit at the front of buses, could not use restrooms that were reserved for whites only, could not go to white schools, things that the young people, in fact, have a very hard time to believe. They have a hard time believing as they see the all-black University of Alabama basketball team win the national championship. But clearly things have changed significantly for black people in this country because of King and many others. But as all of the corporations pay their homage to King now and so forth and so on, but most of us may remember that much of what he attempted to accomplish has, of course, not happened. Integration certainly exists far more than it did before. But King, as you may recall, stood out and fought against the Vietnam War and militarization. And the military establishment keeps rolling along. And King urged black and white workers to stand together for social justice, and that hasn't happened. And King was a man of nonviolence and human dignity. And the gap between the rich and poor that King deplored 20 years ago is in fact wider today. His dream may be half built. And I think maybe to conclude these remarks is to say that we have a dual mission in front of us. On one hand, we have the obligation of doing the very best we can to make this city and this city government as great as it can be. But on the other hand, we have got to go into our hearts and into our guts and to rekindle a vision of human dignity, of the kind of society that every person in this room knows can exist. It's not going to happen now. But we have got to hold on to that vision, because if they take away that vision of a new world and a decent society, then everything is lost. And maybe to quote Martin Luther King in the civil rights movement, I do believe we shall overcome. Thank you. good evening. And that is with a great deal of pleasure to introduce the aldermanic candidates of the Progressive Coalition. And I would like them to come up here and maybe say a few words as they begin their campaign.
I'm running for alderman in Ward 1 because I would like nothing better than to see Ward 1 provide the difference on the Board of Aldermen to move the ideas of Mayor Sanders. No longer should we have to listen to the grandstanding of Ward 1 Democrats criticizing anything and everything.
Although I think we're concentrating tonight on the aldermanic election, let's not forget about the school board. Adele Deano is going to be the candidate for Ward 1 from the school board. Adele?
Out there and vote for me and for the other people that will be running for school board, because we really need some changes here in Burlington. And I hope to help initiate those changes. I've had a lot of experience through the after-school program, and I'm really committed to it. So I'd like to have us all get out there and make the school system not just the biggest, but the best in the state. Thank you.
Like it belongs to us finally. You know, when we first got elected, Bernie and myself and Sadie White, when we came to meetings here, it was rather intimidating for someone like me. I'm not used to dealing with the big mucky mucks, and there's a lot of secrets that you begin to uncover after a while. There's one that I want to share with you all here. The kinds of secrets that go around City Hall. There is a bathroom here, and it's up over there. The main point, I think, that impresses me most about what we are accomplishing in Burlington, it's on two levels. There's the day-to-day immediate needs of typical, average, working Burlingtonians that we are addressing better than any previous administration and any previous board of aldermen. That is simply a fact. But more importantly is to understand that if we don't do that, and go much farther beyond that in terms of promoting this concept of economic justice, of fighting the war machine. No matter how beautiful Burlington streets are, no matter how well the snow is removed, no matter how good our school system becomes, if it's annihilated in nuclear war, it's for naught. The kind of economic justice we need, and we are working towards that in Burlington by creating a culture of democracy. That really is the bottom line of what we're all here for, what the whole Progressive Coalition is all about, is creating that culture where people, average Burlingtonians, begin to think, in the backs of their minds, they begin to understand that they have a right to have a say in any decision that affects their lives. That's not true in most places. People assume that they get to vote every 2 years for candidates that are virtually alike, and that's what the democracy is. They go back to their job, their boss tells them what to do. They have no rights. They go to their, let's say if they're a tenant, the landlord tells them, get out, you have 30 days. Or in the school system, the teacher tells them what to do. The administration tells the teachers what to do. It's assumed that there's always somebody telling you what to do, and that democracy is something limited to, for a few moments every 2 years. What we are developing is that sense that people have a right and a duty, and are beginning to exercise that right and that duty to have a say in the decisions that affect their lives daily. It's a big task to overcome. Turning over that whole monolith of you will obey, you will be obedient to the masters. And maybe that's the wrong kind of jargon or rhetoric to use here. But you know what I'm getting at? We're developing a culture through the neighborhood planning assemblies, through mayor's councils on women, on arts, getting people involved in running their own communities. And that is the most inspiring thing. People like you, people who are involved in the Progressive Coalition, are, I believe, leading that direction of developing a culture of democracy. And I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. This isn't the end. I'm not wrapping it up. I just want to thank you personally, myself. it's very inspiring. We need this kind of input. We need this.
I'm finally announcing. This has been a great 4 years. Burlington has really, this has been a terrific 4 years, the last 4 years. I think we've all enjoyed it a lot. And Burlington is a great place to live. I think it's really clear that Bernie and Progressive Coalition have got a lot of good ideas, and that they really work. And I think that our opponents, inch by inch, are having to come around, one thing after another. It means a lot to me to walk around in the city and have that feeling that there are friends all around, and that there are people all around that I know in this particular way. And I'm really happy for all of us that we've had that experience. And I'm grateful to all of us for having made that possible. Let's just keep doing it. Thank you.